What if I told you that hosting the FIFA World Cup is not simply awarded to the country with the best stadiums, or the best football culture, or even the best plan? What if the biggest sporting event on earth was actually a global battle for power, influence, and prestige? Because when a nation wins the right to host the World Cup, it doesn't just win a tournament, it wins the attention of billions. And that's exactly why countries are willing to spend years, and sometimes billions of dollars, for a chance to hear just one word: selected. But how does that decision really happen? And why have some World Cup selections sparked outrage across the football world? Today, we're uncovering how World Cup hosts are really chosen. Every 4 years, the FIFA World Cup captures the attention of the entire planet. Billions watch, millions travel, and one country becomes the center of the football universe. Officially, the process sounds simple. Countries submit bids, FIFA evaluates them, a vote takes place, a winner is announced. Simple, fair, transparent. At least, that's how it's supposed to look. Because behind the presentations, the stadium plans, and the official speeches, there is another game being played, a game most fans never see. Why do countries fight so hard to host the World Cup? Because the reward is far bigger than football. Hosting the World Cup places a country in front of billions of people. For 1 month, the world watches your cities, your culture, your infrastructure, your image. It becomes the biggest advertisement a nation could ever buy. Hotels fill, airports become busier, tourists arrive from every corner of the globe, businesses gain international exposure, and governments gain something even more valuable: global attention. That is why countries don't treat World Cup bids like sports projects. They treat them like national missions. And when the stakes become that high, competition becomes intense. Years before a World Cup begins, the battle already starts. Countries prepare detailed bid books, massive presentations, economic plans, transportation projects, new stadium proposals. Every detail is designed to impress FIFA. But here's the interesting part. The competition isn't only about showing what you've built. It's about convincing people that your country deserves the tournament more than everyone else. And that turns the process into something much bigger than football. Because when multiple countries want the same prize, politics naturally enters the room. Relationships matter, influence matters, reputation matters, and suddenly, the competition becomes far more complicated. So who actually decides? Today, FIFA's voting system involves member associations from around the world. But historically, the process was controlled by a much smaller group of decision-makers. And that concentration of power created controversy. Critics argued that when only a limited number of people control a decision worth billions, questions become inevitable. Were decisions based purely on merit, or were other factors involved? These questions followed FIFA for years, and they continue to appear whenever a host nation is selected. Because regardless of the system, one reality remains: not everyone will agree with the result. Some World Cup selections were celebrated, others triggered immediate debate. Fans, journalists, analysts, even football officials, all asking the same question: why this country? And that's where things become fascinating. Because hosting decisions are not judged only by football standards. People examine infrastructure, human rights concerns, travel logistics, weather, economics, political influence, and international relationships. Suddenly, a football tournament becomes a global discussion, far beyond the sport itself. One of the most important factors in hosting isn't what is true, it's what people believe. Perception matters. A country may build world-class stadiums, invest billions, prepare for years, and still face criticism. Why? Because World Cups are not only sporting events, they're public statements. They tell the world how a country wants to be seen. That's why governments often invest enormous resources into hosting, not only for football, but for image, for reputation, for influence. Now let's talk about money, because no discussion about the World Cup is complete without it. The tournament generates billions through broadcasting rights, sponsorships, advertising, tourism, merchandise, global partnerships. The financial impact is enormous. And whenever that much money exists, the pressure surrounding decisions increases. Every choice becomes more important. Every vote becomes more valuable. Every announcement becomes more scrutinized. Which is why host selections often attract so much attention. The stakes are simply too high to ignore. Over the years, FIFA has introduced reforms, new voting systems, more transparency measures, more public information. The goal? To increase trust, and to convince the football world that host selections are fair. Supporters argue the process has improved significantly. Critics argue there is still room for questions. The truth? The debate continues. And perhaps it always will. Because when billions are watching, every decision becomes controversial. So, how are World Cup hosts really chosen? Officially, through evaluations, voting, infrastructure reviews, and planning. But in reality, the process is much bigger than football. It's about image, influence, economics, politics, and global attention. That's what makes the World Cup unique. Because before a single ball is kicked, a completely different competition has already taken place. A competition between nations, and only one can win. The next time FIFA announces a World Cup host, don't just look at the stadiums, look at the bigger picture. Because what you're seeing may only be part of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want more hidden truths from the world of football, subscribe to Game Narrative. Because the deeper you look into football, the more fascinating it becomes. And trust me, the next story gets even bigger.